Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Truth Seekers Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kenny Williamson. Today, well, we're going to be talking about something that's in the news. I'm sure you've seen it. It has to do with a 4-day Pride Festival that's going on in Israel, of all places. I saw some of this being talked about earlier, a video that's circulating around with J-Lo on there, if you know who that is. And, you know, she's got a daughter who was, here a while back, was supposedly non-binary, as if that was something real. And now has come right on out and just said, well, I'm full-blown trans. I'm a man now. Okay. And I've talked about this on other podcasts. It's like, what is it? It's like 98%, something like that. It's maybe even 99. It's in the high 90s. Let's just say 98%. 98% of all of your big A-list Hollywood actors have got at least one child that either is trans or non-binary, or they're a boy and they're dressing them up like a girl, or vice versa. It's like 98%. Now, if that tells you what kind of deal is going on over there, I mean, if that don't tell you, you've got a mental problem, okay? What this thing is, and I've told you this 100 times, but I still get asked the same questions. Well, why would they lie? Why would they do this? Why would they do this? This realm that we live in, Earth right now, is under Satan's control. Okay, that's biblical. Satan runs all of the governments. He runs all of the news. He runs the airwaves. Okay. And what is the exact biblical verse on that? Let me look. Prince of the power of the air. That's what he is. So anything that's airwave related, he controls it. Okay. He controls Hollywood. The reason these people are these big A-list actors is because they're, number one, they worship Satan. They do stuff that only Satan worshipers do. Normal people don't do. They drink each other's blood, and they admit it. They drink other people's blood. I mean, they drink children's blood. They're vampires, if you will. So they have this vampire ball going on, is what they do. They're all in on it. Now, my theory has been for years that these creeps, okay, these Hollywood creeps, because that's all they are the ultimate lowest scum of the earth. Now, if you watch the boob tube, the Tell You a Vision box, they're going to put them up on a pedestal and pretend that they're somebody important. They're going to put them in all the movies, in all the commercials, and they're going to inundate you constantly with these celebrities, okay? Which some of them may be fallen angels, and they're wanting you to worship them. Either way, whether they are a fallen angel and you're worshiping them, or you just are worshiping them and they're not a fallen angel, but they're working for Satan, okay? They worship Satan. They talk about Satan. That's all they do. So that's what's going on over there. Now, my theory is that to be a part of this little satanic organization, you have to give something. You have to do sacrifices. So I'm sure lots of these, celebrities, I'm sure lots of them are getting abortions. So they're sacrificing babies that way. And then if they already have children or relatives or something, they're expected to even do more. So in the next phase, it's like, well, if you don't have to necessarily sacrifice them that way, but you have to sacrifice them to the devil in the fact you have to give them drugs and give them a sex change, and you have to turn them in from a boy to a girl or a girl to a boy, which is worshiping the devil. That's what you're doing by doing it. All of these so-called trans, their pronouns, thee, they, and all that. That's what all the demons and the devils go by in the Bible, is they. Okay? This is all satanic. It all has to do with androgyny, which is, that they're worshiping. They did it in biblical days. They worship these false pagan gods, which are nothing more than devils, that are a man with women's breasts, or vice versa, or a man dressed up like a woman, just on and on and on. So all they're doing is sacrificing their children to this system. And every one of them has one. So it must be a requirement, because how can you have like 99% of every single person in this little group all has at least one, sometimes 2 or 3 kids that are, mental or have been sacrificed to this system to where, obviously that's what it is. And probably the more of these kids you sacrifice to this system and give them over to this filth, the more popular you'll get, because that's the way Satan does it. He's rewarding them for doing filth, that kind of stuff. So we know that goes on here, right? And if you're a Bible believer or a churchgoer of any kind, you have probably heard your whole entire life that in the Bible, the Bible was written by Jews, okay? Jesus Christ was a Jew, and he had to go by all of the Jewish functions. Now, he came as the King of the Jews, and the Jews at the time rejected him, and because he said he was God, he said, I am, which is a statement that only God would make. They said, oh, you're saying that you're God, so that's blasphemy, so we want you gone. And so they got him on blasphemy and ended up putting him on a cross, right? Well, the people that did that were Jews. They were the head Jews at the time. And they worshiped in their synagogues, which is like a big church, right? And all that kind of stuff. So that's who crucified Jesus, were the Jews. Now, obviously, Jesus knew that was going to happen. And so before then, he come up with Paul, the Apostle Paul, and then Paul went on after, and he gave the salvation message from Jesus Christ and all that to the Gentiles also, which would be me or anybody else that wasn't of a Jewish, descendant. But he knew now that you actually have, you have Jews and you have fake Jews. So you also have Jews that are lost that will eventually come to know Christ. And that's what the whole purpose of the tribulation is. It's called the time of Jacob's trouble, right? Jacob is Israel. Israel referring to the Jews. So the Jews departed ways with Christ 2,000 years ago, and they rejected it. So here we are today, right? So now we've got Christians who believe in Jesus Christ and saved by grace through faith. The Jews could do that too, but they've rejected it. They instead are waiting on their Messiah to show up. At least a legitimate Jew is supposed to be doing that. Now, somewhere in the mix of this, when you go to a church, they'll say, Jews are God's chosen people, and so you have to be good to Jews, you have to do all this stuff. And it does reference some of that stuff in the Bible, but we're talking about a real Jew, an actual descendant of Abraham type Jew. And a lot of people are like, obviously you can see what's going on in the world today. And I've got to be real careful, because you've got to be real careful what you say about certain ethnic groups of people, especially if they're in Israel, right? So So we have a large ethnic group of people over there that most people would say the Bible says are God's chosen people. And maybe they were, maybe they still are, I don't know. However, Gentiles and others were grafted in on this vine the Bible talks about. And then it goes on to say if you're saved in Jesus Christ, you are no longer a Jew or a Gentile. You're no longer a man or a woman. You are one with Christ. You're a Christian. So if you're a Jew, of descendant, and you become a Christian, you're a Christian, you can't claim you're a Jew because there are no Jews or Gentiles. The Bible makes that perfectly clear if you're saved. Keep that in mind. So we have lots of people running around here claiming that they're Jews, and they expect to be treated as such, right? Because they've rejected Jesus Christ. As a Christian, you haven't done that. So how far have they rejected Jesus Christ, and what are the fakes? Well, we have got, and I'll just read it to you here. Let me read it to you. In Revelation 2:9, and this is Jesus Christ speaking, by the way. He's talking to a church. I believe this one's in Smyrna, whichever one. I've got it right here in the King James Bible, but I've also got it right here. I compared the two. So he says he's talking to these people at the church. Now, this church can be compared to that day of a church that was actually there, and in the future, comparing it to churches today. And he says, I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich, he says. So these people are rich in this church. He says, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Right? So Jesus himself is saying, people are saying they're Jews, and this is at that time, but this also goes for the future, which is where we're at now, from this time that it was printed here. Their synagogue, they claim that they're Jews, but they're really the synagogue of Satan. Okay? He goes on in Revelation again, 3:9, when he's talking to another church, and he says the same thing, similar. He says, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which they say they are Jews and are not, but they do lie. So they're liars. Imagine that. I mean, obviously, if you're the synagogue of Satan, you're a liar, right? So, in other words, we're going to have fake Jews, people who are not really Jews. I'm assuming, that we're talking about the lineage, from Abraham, right? So they're in the place where a Jew would normally be, let's say Israel, but they're not really Jews. They claim to be Jews. They claim to be Jewish, but they're not real Jews. What are they? Well, they're the synagogue of Satan. Okay, so what do we have today over there in Israel? Okay, well, I mean, if you follow any of the news or anything at all, it's pretty obvious, right? What's going on over there? I didn't even realize it was this bad. So this is from the Jerusalem Post, from Jerusalem in Israel. Okay, think about that. Jerusalem from the Bible. They're taking Bible tours and stuff over here. Churches are going over there all the time, exploring like where Abraham and all them were buried, the mount where Jesus was crucified. I mean, the whole thing's over there. The Dead Sea, all the ruins of this stuff is right over there. That's where they're at. Everything that's in this book right here is right there. All the stories right there. So what do? Let me just read you the main headline from the Jerusalem Post, okay? 4-day Pride Festival to be held at the Dead Sea, the largest in history. Wow. The largest Pride Festival, going to be held for 4 days at the Dead Sea, right over there, right next to where Sodom and Gomorrah was at, by the way. Are you familiar with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? Okay. If you're not, let me just give you a quick recap. Sodom and Gomorrah was full of gay men, also known in the Bible, in the King James Bible, as Sodomites. Okay? And that King James Bible, that's old and blah, blah, blah. Oh, all right, enough. Even today, it's still called sodomy. Sodomites perform sodomy. That's what they do. So these Sodomites, this town was full of Sodomites, the whole thing. Now, a couple of angels show up, okay, to the only guy's house that was good. And they're like, you know what, come on out. God's going to destroy the city because it's so ate up. And when the men of Sodom saw those two angels, they thought they were regular men. They basically tried to beat his door down, Lot's door down, saying, bring those men out so we can have sex with them, because they're all Sodomites. And just like the Sodomites today, they literally parade around, take their clothes off, and demand you to do something, like they own the place. Okay, anyway, make a long story short, God had destroyed the city. They were so bad and so filthy, he destroyed the whole entire thing. And that's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. So, what do we have over here in Israel right now? Well, we're going to have the biggest pride parade festival ever. Right there where Sodom and Gomorrah was. That's called mocking God. Okay? You can't make this up. I can see this in California, right? New York, one of these lunatic left liberal deals where gays are running around everywhere destroying stuff and, dressed in thongs, running around, and they get to do it. Anybody else put it on, they'd be considered, they'd get arrested for indecent exposure or something. But not them. So, here we go. 4-day Pride Festival to be held at the Dead Sea, largest in history. Pride Land is what they're calling it. Pride. This is Satan. Everything they say is opposite. Right in the very first thing, Pride Land. Okay? Let me read to you real quick what God says about pride. I've got it pulled up here. In case you don't know what God thinks about pride, this is gay pride, any kind of pride. Okay? In Proverbs, pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. When pride cometh, then cometh shame. Okay? How about, let's see, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world, Satan's world. Okay? How about this one? Everyone that is proud in their heart is an abomination to the Lord. How about that one? You still proud? Go ahead and talk all about your pride and how proud you are. Everyone that's proud in his heart is an abomination to the Lord. Wrap your mind around that real quick. Go ahead and do it. I can't wait to see what's in store for you. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so anyway, there's a whole bunch of other ones. That ought to tell you what God thinks about pride. There we have it. That's your pride. Now, this is in the Jerusalem Post talking about Israel. The land of God over there. Right? Pride Land is not just another festival, said the producer and initiator of the festival. It's the biggest thing we've ever done here. Congratulations. Israel is set to host the Middle East's largest ever LGBT festival at the Dead Sea in June 2026. The new festival, Pride Land, intends to transform the middle of the Judean Desert into a colorful Pride city from June 1st to June 4th. Today's the 4th, by the way. The event intends to create an experience broader than parties or performances, which their parties are all sex-filled orgy parties, by the way. And that's why a majority of them have HIV. But forget all that. So he wants to go into more than just a party, even broader. Instead of aiming for a space that's alive 24 hours a day, they're going to keep this thing running all day and all night. Endless fornication. With 15 hotels, beach complexes, parties, and a central performance arena all operating around the clock. Hey, sex, filth, fornication, and sodomy around the clock, boys and girls. Wow. That's something to be proud of. In Israel. This isn't in California. If this was on the beach of California, so of course it is. What's surprising about that? This is in Israel, next to the Dead Sea. Okay. Alongside the nightlife, and we know what sodomites do at night under the cover of night, don't we? And they're proud of this. All having sex with each other, spreading around HIV. Oh, it's wonderful. You should get in on it. So alongside this nightlife, Pride Land will have cultural and art complexes. Sure. What do you mean? Nude pictures? Is that your art? Relaxation and scenic areas. Sure. Oh, and family-friendly areas with children's activities. Let me guess. Setting your child on top of some nasty sodomite dressed up like a woman, and him telling your little kid a story time, sodomite story time, how you need to be gay, how you need to be a sodomite. Take your clothes off. Doesn't matter. Don't worry. What devil? You're not going to go to hell. Oh, is that the stories you're telling? Oh, they're stories, all right. All right. The organizers hope to create multi-generational, so they want them all in there, young, old, everybody. They want everybody to burn in hell, not just the old ones, the young ones, everybody. So we're going to create a. Let's see, I lost my place here. Create a multi-generational Pride city, not just a party celebrating Pride. They want this whole Pride city. This is not just another festival. It's the biggest thing we've ever done here, and they're proud of it. We choose to grow, he says, to take an investment of millions, purchase entire hotels for 4 days, and build a city from scratch in the middle of the desert. It's an experience that lives 24/7 from quiet visits to nights of pride with a living envelope of music and people. Don't you mean not nights of debauchery and filth? Oh, yeah, same thing. Because we all know what pride is, don't we? We have already read what it says. It's an abomination. Yeah. Oh, this is not just a pride event. It also aims to highlight the Dead Sea region as a permanent destination for LGBT tourists, emphasizing that pride in Israel extends beyond Tel Aviv. So they want it all the time. That's what's going on over there in Israel. Besides everything else that's going on. Okay? Besides all the wars and rumors of wars. Yeah. So it says, now they're a little concerned with this. This event comes at a challenging time for Israel on the international stage, with tourism affected by the country's security situation. In other words, going and bombing a bunch of people and killing them. Yeah. Anyway, that's what we've got going on over there. If that's not as sick as you can possibly get. So let's read some other stuff here. This is one that came from a Christian Post reporter. This says, Israel promotes the biggest LGBTQ plus festival ever in the Middle East near the site of Sodom, mocking God. That's exactly what they're doing over there. So, the official X account of Israel, which you can see that on X, which is run by the Israeli Foreign Ministry, promoted an upcoming 4-day LGBTQ plus Pride Festival in June at the Dead Sea, which some detractors on social media noted this is the traditional location of Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, why not? Why not put it right where God destroyed it once? Hey, maybe we'll get lucky and he'll do it again. I'd be all for it. Okay. Let's see. Let's see one of the other one here. Yeah, so it goes on and on and on, which is everything I've already read to you. This is the same thing. We've got different churches and different people, like these different things. Like this guy says, why here? Why are they mocking God? But what do you expect from the synagogue of Satan? Okay, would you expect anything less? Is there any wonder God is going to have to put an end to it here pretty soon and pull in 7 years of tribulation, the time of Jacob's trouble, and say, you're done? Is there any wonder? I mean, again, I could see this stuff if it was going on in California, of course. But no, it's in Israel, by the Dead Sea, Jerusalem Post, by Jerusalem, by Tel Aviv. I mean, this is supposedly a holy land. And I listen to these people on AFR News and them. That's all they do is take trips over there to go see the Holy Land. If this is what you're calling the Holy Land now? I mean, they're setting this thing up where it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's basically a tourist attraction specifically for sodomites. That's what they want there. I mean, how you gonna get around it? I don't understand it. You go over there to see Jesus Christ where he was crucified. They don't even believe in Jesus Christ. That's why they have their wailing wall over there that they're, kissing on or whatever it is they're doing over there. I know what it looks like they're doing. That's what everybody says they're doing. And of course they try to claim, blah, 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 that has something to do with the temple. Well, a little bit of research will tell you that was a Roman fort over there. Okay, fort, I think it's San Antonio, something like that. Whatever it is, fort something. That isn't the temple, the old temple. Christ said that temple, there won't be one stone left upon another. And there wasn't. It was tore down. But see, the thing is, since they claim that's part of the wall of the temple, well, that makes Christ a liar. See, he wasn't really God in the flesh. So they do everything to discredit Christ and get rid of him and call him a liar. In fact, in their Talmud that they read, these so-called Jews, it says that Christ is burning in hell. So that's the kind of people that are over there doing this stuff. Now, not all, but most. So how do you differentiate the ones that are synagogue of Satan from the real deal? That's my question. I mean, isn't it funny that this same group of people seems to be involved in all kinds of filth, fornication, perversion, all the way back into World War II. You know, everybody's heard about the deal in World War II, right? You know, where supposedly 6 million people were exterminated, you know, by Germany. I'm trying to drop clues here because you know what I'm talking about, right? And it's presented as fact. And if you say anything about it or ask any logical questions, well, then automatically you're anti somebody. You know, you're anti-Semite. If you ask a question, you know, you can't ask any questions, so you can't go back and look and do the records and see that somebody's lying, right? And it's starting to get harder and harder to do whenever they've got AI out now, and you know, somebody takes some of these, you know, like Hitler. They take Hitler's speeches and they're normal once you actually have them translated and you can hear what they're saying. And you go back and you look at all these book burnings that they were having, saying that they burned all the books. Well, come to find out all the books they were burning were perverted, sexual trash that nobody wanted anyway. You know, same thing with this sodomite stuff. They were burning filth and porn. They didn't want it around. Wow. But, you know, you're led to believe your whole entire life that they were burning books, acting like they're burning the Bible or something, when they weren't. They were actually burning a porn stash. I'm all for that. Oh, they were burning books telling kids how to be gay. Burn them. Oh, they're burning, you know, magazines with filthy pictures in it, talking about, you know, pedos and kids. Yeah, burn them. But, hey, we got a certain groups of people out there that say no. Oh, no, they were burning good stuff, our stuff, and it was good. But you look today and you see these rabbis like the one that's always on TV and stuff. I mean, he's hanging around with celebrities, supposedly a Jewish rabbi. You know, and him and his daughter, they own a sex company that has all kinds of sex toys and filth and lubricants, you name it. And so they're on there, him and his daughter, laughing it up, talking about this stuff. A rabbi. So if you can be a Jewish rabbi and you can own a porn shop and everybody laughs along and goes over there, are you starting to see what's going on here? Okay, you're an abomination, all right. You're going to get exactly what's coming to you, and I can't wait. You're going to get exactly what you deserve. Okay? You have a chance to turn. Turn before you burn, but you're not going to. So I'm done with you. Okay? I've already went there. I've seen what you're doing. You ain't going to change. People have tried to talk to you. You're claiming you're a rabbi, okay? So keep doing what you're doing. You keep pushing the porn and the filth and the LGBTQ and the sodomites, and you run your parades, and you let everybody strip naked in front of these children and doing everything that you're doing. And, you know, you totally ignore everything in this book about what God thinks about it, and you just keep right on doing it. And now when it all comes crashing down, like it did for Sodom and Gomorrah, I guess you'll always wonder why, won't you? Because they didn't seem to think anything was wrong with it there either. I mean, they didn't have any problem with just running up and raping people in the street. No problem. Hey, you come to this town, we have our way with you, or don't come here. And they didn't think there was anything wrong with it until they were all burned alive. Yeah, I bet they might have thought, I don't know. They probably didn't even think twice then. In fact, they were probably mad because it was happening. Because they're like, how dare you interrupt our orgy? So, yeah. Anyway, I thought that was something. And I think I started this off with talking about J-Lo, because J-Lo was on here with her, you know, her trans kid, talking about this big deal, and these talking about these sodomites. Why should they only get 1 month? Why should they only get 1 month of pride? They should have all year of pride. Pride year after year. I guess 1 year just rolls into the next year, since they don't need Pride Month, they need Pride Year. So if it's up to these A-list devil worshipers and sodomites and everything, pedos, Over there in Hollywood, we'd have this stuff going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. Literally a giant filth porn party like in Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what they want going on 24/7. Worshiping the devil, by the way. So good luck with that. That's how you know we're close to the end times. We'd have to be. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we've got going on in Israel. Enough said. I digress. If you can't see it, I mean, I can't go into depth on this because I'll be canceled. Okay? But I would suffice to say that anything, majority of what you've been taught your whole entire life is a lie. Okay? And for some reason, you've been taught your whole entire life that certain groups of people have been oppressed their whole entire lives. And so they have to be babied now. Even though when you look back, you don't really see any oppression going on. But they seem to be doing a lot of oppressing, right? They seem to get away with anything. But there's several different groups around here that are getting that kind of treatment. Oh, I've been oppressed. You have? Really? Show me. I mean, it looks to me like you're getting everything afforded to you that I never got afforded to me. You're getting it all and more. But you're still crying about oppression. Nothing's ever good enough. That's because you want to do whatever you want. You want to commit every sin that you want to commit and get away with it. And you want to feel justified. And you want people to pat you on the back for it. And hey, if you want to have pride, the pride of life, and you want to be an abomination to the Lord, go ahead. He's the one that's going to slap you down, not me. When he gets a hold of you, you're finished. Okay, so you think about that. It's not what I said. The Bible says pride is an abomination. So you just keep on talking about your pride and how proud you are. Okay, go right ahead. And the funny thing is, do it and then claim you're a Christian too. Just throw everything out what the Bible says and just do whatever you want. Do as thou wilt. Isn't that what you really want to do? Because you're not a Christian to begin with if you believe this junk. You know, that you can just do whatever and you can be pride. I heard that on the radio, I think it was the other day. Or they were talking about it somewhere saying that, sodomite Christians. Like, of course you can be a sodomite Christian. Oh yeah, because that's just a way of life. That's just, God created everybody equal and he loves everybody, including a couple of men in bed together, even though the Bible says not to do it. But hey, and then you want to know an example? They get together like that, sodomites, and God destroys it. But don't worry about any of that. He loves it now. Sure. You keep telling yourself that, and you'll end up burning, is what you're going to do. But you can change. You've got a choice. It is your choice. Anyway, having said all that, I'll stop talking about that stuff. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, give me an email. truthseekers2012@gmail.com. It's flatbro.com. truthseekersministry.org. You can also get to that same website at kennywilliamson.com. Whatever's easiest. Go to any one of those. You can contact me on there or email me or leave a comment. I read all the comments. Let me know what you think. Now, you got to be careful what you say, but let me know what you think. I think that's it for now. Other than that, this is just a sign to let you know it's getting close. These end times are screaming upon us. So if you're not saved, now's the time. Okay? You ain't got nothing to lose by getting saved. Only something to gain. It's the best bet you'll ever make. Okay? The best bet you'll ever make. So get saved before it's too late. Thanks for listening. Until we meet again, God bless you.